Happy Shushan Purim, everyone. This is Daf Yomi, tractate Menachot 52b, starting with the last line of 52a. Boyer Yochanan Kohen Gadol Shemez V'lo Minu Achal Tachtav. Having discussed the quantity of frankincense that is generally brought with the grilled cake offering, the Gemara now addresses a case where the high priest died. Rabbi Yochanan raises a dilemma. In the case of a high priest who died, and they did not yet appoint another in his stead, now turn to 52b on the top with the word L'Rabbanan. L'Rabbanan hu pila levoinosoi oila mi amir mitashu hu pila Salto Hupila Levonaso Oh Dio mai di gali mai di logale. According to the rabbis who hold that generally one handful of frankincense is divided between the morning and the afternoon offerings, is the amount of frankincense doubled or not? Do we say that since this case its fine flour is doubled, as a complete tenth of an ephah fine flour, a fine flour is sacrificed in both the morning and evening, its frankincense is also doubled? Or perhaps that which the verse reveals, meaning that a complete tenth of an ephah is sacrificed in the morning and afternoon, it reveals, and that which it does not reveal, it does not reveal. And therefore, since the verse does not indicate that the amount of frankincense is doubled, only one handful is brought. B'shemen, bein la'aba, yosi, ben dostai, u'bein la'rabanan mahu. And furthermore, what is the halacha concerning the oil of the griddle cake offering in a case where the high priest died and was not yet replaced, both according to Abba Yosi ben dostai and according to the rabbis? Is the required amount 3 log, as it is when the high priest brings the griddle cake offering, or is the amount of oil doubled just as the amount of fine flour is doubled? Amarava tashima chamisha kamatzin hein v'im isa zimnin dimishkachas la shiva. Rava said, come and hear a resolution to the dilemma concerning the quantity of frankincense that is brought in this case based upon a Mishnah in 106b. There are 5 halacha pertaining to a handful, and the halacha of frankincense sacrificed with the grilled cake offering of the high priest is not included in this number, because only half a handful of frankincense is sacrificed at one time. And if it is so that when there is no high priest, a complete handful is brought in the morning and in the afternoon, then sometimes you find that there are 7 halachot pertaining to a handful. Di lakitani yasif rapava kamarna ashmaita. Amar le Rav Yosef bar Shemaya rapava. Ha maila koimis bachutz. Di havi bekitani. The Gemara rejects this proof. The Tana does not teach cases of what if the high priest died and is speaking only about a typical case. The Gemara relates that Rav Papa was sitting and teaching this halacha. Rav Yosef bar Shemaya said to Rav Papa, but the Mishnah does list the case of one who intentionally offers up the handful from a meal offering outside the temple courtyard who is liable to receive karet. This is not a standard case, but rather a case of what if, and nevertheless it is taught in the Mishnah. Accordingly, Rava's proof is valid. My Havi Allah Amar of Nachmar Yitzchak Shema Titania Kohen Gadol Shemes V'Lomino Achar Tachta Shlema Shachris Ushlema Ben Arbaim Umafrish La Shnei Kamatzin Kometz Shachris V'Kometz Ben Arbaim Umafrish La Shlishes Lugin Logo Mechza Shachris Logo Mechza Ben Arbaim. The Gemara asks, what conclusion was reached about this matter? Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak said, coming here a resolution, as is taught in the Braita in the case of a high priest who died, and they did not yet appoint another in his stead, a complete tenth of an ephah of fine flour is brought for the griddle cake offering in the morning, and another complete tenth of an ephah is brought in the afternoon, and one separates 2 handfuls of frankincense for it, and sacrifices 1 handful with the morning offering and 1 handful with the afternoon offering, and one separates 3 log of oil for it and brings a log and a half with the morning offering and a log and a half with the afternoon offering. Mani Ilim Rabbanan Maishna Levanas Dehuch Vila Umashna Shamdu Lohuch. The Gemara asks, in accordance with whose opinion is this Braita? If we say it is in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis, what is the difference about his frankincense such that it is doubled in the case where the high priest died? And what is different about its oil such that it is not doubled? Ella Abba Yossi ben Ustahi to Amar Chabite Kohen Gadol Bialma Shani Kamatzin Baya Ulivona Lo Huchbila Vishemin Lo Huchbila Lo Huchbal. Rather, the Braita is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Abba Yossi ben Ustai, who said the griddle cake offering on the high priest generally requires 2 handfuls. Of the high priest generally requires 2 handfuls. Therefore, when the Braita refers to handfuls of frankincense in the case where the high priest died and another has not yet been appointed, the frankincense is not being doubled and the oil is not being doubled. Therefore, 3 log of oil are required as usual. Mede shemen la'abi Yossi ben Dostai lo huchbela livonasa v'shamna Rabbanan nami lo huchbelu. And from the fact that, according to Abba Yossi ben Dostai, the requisite oil is not doubled, one cannot conclude that also according to the rabbis its frankincense and its oil are not doubled. Amar Rabbi Yochanan halakha Abba Yossi ben Dostai umi Amar Rabbi Yochanan hachi Amar Rabbi Yochanan halakha Mishnah utzlan chamisha kamatzin hein. The Gemara discussion in the Gemara began with Rabbi Yochanan presenting the dispute between Abba Yossi ben Dostai and the rabbis, and it concludes with his ruling concerning their dispute. Rabbi Yochanan says the halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Abba Yossi ben Dostai. The Gemara asks, and did Rabbi Yochanan actually say this? But doesn't Rabbi Yochanan state a principle that the halacha is in accordance with the ruling of an unattributed Mishnah? And we learned in the unattributed Mishnah cited earlier that there are only 5 halacha pertaining to a handful, since the Mishnah does not list the fact that a handful of frankincense is offered twice daily with the griddle cake offering. How can Rabbi Yochanan accept that opinion? Amorai ninhu v'alib Rabbi Yochanan. The Gemara answers they are different Amoraim, and they disagree with regard to the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan. One said that Rabbi Yochanan rules in accordance with Abba Yossi ben Dostai, and one said, according to Rabbi Yochanan, the halacha is always in accordance with an unattributed Mishnah. Okay, and that concludes Perek HaTecheles, Hadron Halacha HaTecheles. Going on to the next chapter, Kol HaMenachos. Kol HaMenachos. Zok de Mishneh, Kol HaMenachos Ba'os. Zok de Eli Mishneh. Kol HaMenachos Ba'os. Matzah chutz b'chametz shebetoida u'shtei lechem u'shtei shehen ve'os chametz. All the meal offerings come to be offered as matzah with care taken to prevent leavening, except for 10 loaves of leavened bread among the 40 loaves that accompany the thanks offering and the meal offering of the 2 loaves that are brought on the festival of Shavuot. We're talking a lot about Shavuot. It's Purim time. There's a connection there. Anyway, okay. As they come to be offered as a leavened bread. Rabbi Meir Omer Haseor boidehem mitochen u'machmatzan. The sages disagree to the manner in which those meal offerings were leavened. Rabbi Meir says, with regards to leaven added to the dough to facilitate leavening, one separates part of the flour for the meal offerings from within the flour of the meal offerings themselves, caused to become leavened, and the leavens the meal offering with Rabbi Yehuda, and leavens the meal offering with Rabbi Yehuda Omer. Av hi eino min hamuvchal, ela mevies haseor, v'nosno letoch hamido, umimali es hamido omru lo, af hi hoisa chasero o yisero. Rabbi Yehuda says that is also not the optimal manner in which to fulfill the mitzvah, as aged leaven is a more effective leavening agent. Rather, one brings the leaven from another aged dough and places it into the measuring vessel, and then he adds flour until he fills the measuring vessel to ensure the appropriate measure of 1/10 of an ephah of flour. And the rabbi said to Rabbi Yehuda, that too is inappropriate, as in that manner the meal offering, I'll let back to the Mishnah, will either be lacking, or the requisite measure, for lacking the requisite measure, or be greater than the required measure, as the Gemara will explain. That's the Mishnah now for the Talmud. Ba minei Rabbi Preda min Rabbi Ami minai lechol Menachot shehenu ba'os matzah minalad kesiv ba delo kesiv ba. Okay, this is interesting. Rabbi Preda raised a dilemma before Rabbi Ami. Rabbi Preda raised a dilemma before Rabbi Ami. Okay, from where is it derived that with regard to all of the meal offerings that they come to be offered as matzah? Ami was puzzled by this question, and he replied, what do you mean when you say, from where do we derive this? Concerning every meal offering with regard to which it is written explicitly in the Torah that it comes from matzah, it is written with regard to it. And regarding the dilemma, and therefore the dilemma does not arise, any concerning any meal, and concerning any meal offering which it was not written explicitly with regard to it. And it must be matzah, nevertheless it is written with regard to it. Continue. God willing tomorrow.